Thank you, Laura, for joining me today. We connected over our mutual, let's say, love for self-help and trying to become better ourselves and trying to grow. And eventually we came to the conclusion that we should speak about it in this format. And I wanted to ask you for, let's say, an elevator pitch, like 30 seconds or 1 minute of what do you want to achieve, what do you enjoy, who are you, so that everybody can know that.
Thank you very much for having me, first of all, and it would be my pleasure to do that. Unfortunately, I will do my best to make it in 30 seconds because I really love to talk about everything for hours, especially about myself. But here it goes. My name is Laura. I am 24 years old. I come from Romania, Galați. I work in the hospitality industry. I love the world of hotels. I've been traveling since I was little with my parents, and traveling is very relaxing and soothing to me. I think there's nothing more enchanting than discovering places, people, connecting with everyone from all corners of the world. I am very energetic. I sometimes can scare people away with my energy and enthusiasm, but I guess that's just me. I'm very creative. I like to bring the surprise element to people, and I am very optimistic. I always like to see the bright side of things, no matter what. So did I make it 30 seconds or not?
Yeah, I think it's perfect. And
Perfect.
I think it's amazing that you found something that for you is a 10, for you it's something that you would want to do no matter what. And from our short talks, I know that you're very passionate about what you're doing and what you're trying to achieve. So yes. I think that's great, to be fair. Most people spend lots of time trying to figure out what they want to do, and having some clear objectives, I think they really help. And just to lead in to some maybe other questions, I was wondering, how do you come across this idea of developing yourself, developing your skills? I know you said you're enthusiastic, so I'm guessing some part of it is natural, some part of you is you wanting to become better for the people around you, and being attracted to the hospitality sector means that you also enjoy serving people and making them have great experiences. So what was the push behind, let's say, trying to grow in this area?
That is a very good question, and thank you for addressing it. To be honest with you, I had this natural urge of writing since high school. Through the experiences I was having through my fellow colleagues, the way they were as a community in my high school, I felt that need when there was no one to talk to. I felt that need to write, to put my thoughts down on paper. I didn't consider the idea of blogging back then. It seemed still new, something new to me. But then since I returned home in November 2020, because of the pandemic and hotels closure and everything, I still am at home. So I tried to use this time to my advantage, in the sense that I wanted to invest time in myself to discover this passion for developing, self-development, for mindfulness, things that I didn't really have time to do before. So I can really say that during this time frame, I grew a lot in this sector, and I really like not only writing more on my blog, but really connecting with people, talking about these topics, really to discover what this area is about and how much more I can grow in this area, you know? And I think it's very powerful. It's very powerful the moment you talk about it openly with other people. It helps you also, but the other person too. And it makes me very empowered in the end.
I'm happy to hear that. And I think there are some similarities with what I also did in the past. I had a blog 10 years ago. It's crazy if you think of it like just in timelines. And as a difference between us, so I know there are a couple of differences from just the little amount that we spoke about so far. In terms of the whole development and all of that, I think like I'm sort of a veteran in the space. So I went through that phase of excitement. In the phase that you are, I think there are multiple phases of, let's say, development. I don't want to call it self-help because I feel there is this gap between developing yourself and self-help. Self-help is somebody trying to sell you something. And that's anything from, the $999 seminar to whatever favor of the month book. So I think that self-help and development is something different, something that we're doing mostly for ourselves and also for the others to become better for them. I've been through the excitement phase, through the learning phase, through a phase in which I was disillusioned. I saw some of the tactics used, and then I realized, hey, you know what? You can take the best parts of it, and I mean, you don't have to take it all. Not every technique, not everything will ever work. That's the whole thing with development. Maybe, the reasoning behind it, it's not crystal clear. There is no sort of laws, but it's obvious that if you spend, for example, some time doing self-authoring programs or trying to understand yourself a bit better, that will automatically lead to something much greater in your own life, and you'll have more clarity, and that's a great process to go through. So
absolutely.
So yeah, I think there is a lot of value in that, and there's a lot of value with writing.
Actually, if I may add something, I want to talk here a little bit about people pleasing, because I think it's a topic which nowadays a lot of people are confronted with. And I also used to do people pleasing quite a lot in the past, like not putting myself first and always making the others as a priority when it should have been perhaps me. And no, that doesn't mean that you're selfish, because there's a difference. You always have to put yourself first, no matter what. You have to think about your own well-being, about what is best for you, and then how to help the others, how to come and connect with other people. What would be your thoughts on that?
So my first thought was that you're a recovering agreeable person, which I can completely understand. So on this scale, maybe as some context for the people that are listening, there is this big character trait scale, and one of them is agreeableness. The people who are extremely agreeable, they tend to, please others, try to make things better for everybody but themselves. And I've been there, and I'm still there in so many aspects of my life. But on the other hand, I also have a disagreeable side, a side which is competitive, a side which sort of puts my own interest first in terms of what I want to achieve. So that comes naturally for me. Now, there is also the discussion of what is of interest to you and what isn't. So if we're talking about an issue which doesn't matter to me, but it matters to the people around me, well, I will do the thing that matters to them, because for me, it's a non-issue. But if there's something that matters to me and it doesn't, or it matters for the people around me, maybe as much, I will probably listen to my own instincts and try to do what's best for everybody, because somehow I think that what's best for me, as long as it doesn't harm any other people around me, it's also what's best for everybody else. Like nobody wants to see people who are annoyed, who are bitter, who are resentful, because that's the risk. If you're extremely agreeable, in time you will become very resentful. You will feel like you're not paid enough. Your partner is not treating you well enough. You're doing everything for them, they're not doing things for you. What else? You will feel like your family is taking advantage of you. And those are natural and normal feelings. And I think we need to be not selfish, because I don't think that's the key. But as you were saying in the beginning, it's sort of about mindfulness. And there are some I'm not usually advocating for religions or anything of that sort, but as a philosophy, Taoism goes very close to that. I wouldn't even call it a religion, but anyway, it basically says that you have to start from yourself and to see the other relationship with the whole world and take that in context. So if you do that, you have many more chances to do the right thing than just to consider a particular person or yourself. I'm not sure if that answered.
No, it's a very elaborative answer, and I couldn't agree more. Everything has to start with yourself, right? So the moment you feel that I think it's about feelings. You need to ask yourself every time, how does this make me feel? How does this situation make me feel? Okay, how am I gonna act on this for later on? Because I was feeling very, how can I say, the more I was people pleasing, the more I was, at the end of the day, I was feeling very, okay,
exhausted?
But when do I, yes, mentally exhausted. Like, okay, when do I have time for myself too? When do I have time to listen to myself, to what I actually want?
So, I just wanted to ask this. How do you feel that, let's say, the process of self-introspection and knowing yourself became better over time? So maybe in the beginning you were asking yourself some questions and it was maybe tough to answer. Do you feel like you're now, let's say, catching yourself when doing certain things and you stop doing them much more often than before? How do you feel about it?
I can definitely say it was a journey. It was a journey through, obviously, ups and downs. Let's say in the past, I did have a lot of encounters when I didn't listen to myself at all. So I had something to learn from that. If you ask me how I ended up learning, I think it was just a moment of awakening. Like I told to myself innerly, I told myself, this is enough. I can't do this anymore. It's time to change. So that's when basically the inner transformation started to appear. And I could see the world with different eyes. I could feel differently. And it's such a powerful moment when you start to feel differently from within. You see people also differently. You see everything with different eyes, and it's just very, very powerful.
So there was something like an aha moment, because the first question that I addressed was basically trying to figure that out, because I think people are trying to improve themselves there are, let's say, two paths. Either it's something that comes extremely natural, or it's something that's being triggered by an event. So I think there is a balance at use. I'm not sure if you're agreeing with that, but how do you feel about it?
A balance in going through ups and downs, or?
A balance in there was an event that triggered your journey, but there was also something that you are naturally inclined to. I think it's both for you. I'm not sure.
I would say actually an event, or maybe a series of events. Not just one.
We won't dive into them, because that can get personal. So it's better to keep it, let's say, at the bird's eye level. But it's interesting because I think that's mostly my experience as well, and the experience of so many people that I spoke with. They come to this space of trying to understand themselves better when something is not working. So if things are working perfectly in your life, you're clearly not listening to this or not listening to any type of content on the area of trying to become better yourself. And again, this applies in all of the spaces. By the way, as some sort of random insight, I found out that the best things that I've ever done in any of the spaces are the things on relationships. So people are really struggling in that area to figure out how their partner is behaving or how they should behave as well. And they search for things when something goes wrong, and because nobody searches for them when things go right. So that's
So,
would say interesting.
to be honest with you, Victor, now that you raised this theme, I would spend hours talking about this topic because I love it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a topic that I have struggled with quite a lot, and I think this is where my awakening came from.
Okay.
So if you want, for our potential future podcasting, we could definitely meet again and talk about this only topic, because I would talk,
definitely.
honestly, I would talk for so many hours.
Definitely. I also have a project in mind on relationships and dating, and we can definitely do that. That would be cool.
Perfect. And just one more thing that I wanted to add, when it comes to the awakening phase, and to everyone who is watching and trying to find this phase. I think it's all about being open. It's all about going out there into the world and exploring, being vulnerable. I think if you don't jump, if you don't show up in situations or when meeting people, you don't know the outcome. You don't know how this is going to evolve in the end. So the more you explore, the more you show up, you show yourself, the more you have to learn. And I think this is where these learnings come from exploring, from being vulnerable, from
Yes, I completely understand that, and I agree with that. And I also think that brutal honesty is the way. So you have to be brutally honest with you and with the people around you. And I'm saying that as a person who's disagreeable, because here is maybe another subject of that we can talk about, and that's about, you know, how you were raised against what your natural tendencies towards. So my natural tendency in this kind of situations is to be brutally honest, but I've been raised to be extremely overly diplomatic and extremely, let's say, not to hurt anybody, not to hurt their feelings or whatever. I think, and this is one of the reasons why in the past, for example, I'm thinking about like 3 or 4 years ago, when I would go out and date or meet people, whatever, I wouldn't tell them, hey, you know what, this date sucked ass. I really don't want to meet again. I don't feel like we have things in common, and it's a waste of time for both of us, because, you know, I'm valuing the person's time and my time as well. So I think it's the right thing to do now, like to say, hey, you know what, this is not what I'm looking for, so best of luck for you. It was a good date, whatever, but let's not do it again, right? And I would get trapped in this sort of cycle of terrible second, third, and fourth dates, whatever, until they would eventually say, hey, this isn't for me, right? Because, and this is not to speak about relationship per se, but it's about the difference between who we really are and who the society tries us to be, or let's say the parents, or, you know, the medium in which we lived. And to this idea, I wanted to ask you, is the understanding of yourself or of others improved by the fact that you love different cultures? So I'm guessing that you love different cultures because you love the hospitality sector and you've been traveling a lot. So has that understanding of those cultures helped you in your own self-understanding, or how do you feel like
Absolutely, especially because I've done my university studies in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, and there the people are very, very open, and I wasn't used to that at all. So having stayed during my first year with a Dutch girl in the room, of course there were slight differences in culture, slight
huge
disagreements. Yes, huge. Thank you. Huge. So there was a moment of, okay, but I'm used to being like this, and I'm used to being diplomatic because this is how I grew up.
Yeah.
And then when this is in front of my eyes, when I had to encounter this situation, I felt overwhelmed. I didn't know how to react. But with time, I have learned to be a little bit more honest, as you said, brutally honest even. And now looking back, I think, yes, it does help to be like this, because it makes the situation a whole lot easier and clearer. If someone is honest from the very beginning, then okay, we both know how to act for future encounters, for
Yeah, and it certainly depends on the culture, but yeah, as you're saying, like in Netherlands, the culture is very blunt. If you go in the UK, where I studied, it's the opposite. Like you never know what they're trying to say to you. So yeah, it's ridiculous trying to figure that out. I think we in Romania have a weird way of communicating things. I think we're extremely hierarchical. So we look at the people at the top to tell us what to do, which is something that nobody kind of respects at us. And we're also a combination of overly diplomatic, but also sometimes when we do attack, we do it viciously. So
oh yes.
So it's funny. And there is a certain dynamic with certain cultures that's more difficult than others. Like I found that, for example, if I meet with some Greeks, we're mostly the same in terms of how we interact with the world, and things are very easy in that area. But yeah, maybe speaking about the Dutch, the feedback that they're giving you can sometimes be brutal.
Yes, but I think now looking on a general note, I think I would personally prefer more of this brutal feedback than being stabbed in the back without me knowing, so at least do something in front of my eyes so that I am aware of it, I acknowledge it. But if you do some tricks that I'm not aware of so easily, it's much more painful.
I think it makes life easier. So, and I think, to be fair, the quest, let's say, for growth and knowledge is also a quest for making your life easier. Because if you're trying to make your life as complicated as possible with 10,000 systems, you will end up doing nothing. I am curious, have you also had an interest in, let's say, minimalism or anything of that sort? Maybe stoicism or any sort of philosophies that are like, you know what, we have too many things already, let's just get rid of them, let's make our life easier. How do you feel like? Do you feel like you're trying to add more systems into your life or to reduce the number of them?
I am definitely pro this minimalistic mentality. I even bumped into a YouTube channel only focusing on minimalism. I think, yes, generally speaking, it is very important to just analyze and clean your mind, not just your room, but clean your mind and really analyze, okay, do I have everything I need? Do I even need more? Why is that? I think, yes, it's very important to reflect, to sit down with yourself and to discover, yes, what do I actually need, and do I even need more?
I think we're naturally hoarders, like people from Eastern Europe. And again, like, this is not to say, hey, we're bad or whatever, but this is just to say that I think we're hoarders. We have lots of memories, lots of I don't know how to better say it, but I think we put such a high price on memories or on things that people in the West don't.
Yes.
And, okay, that's, again, I'm not a huge fan of that divide, us against them, but it's just saying that I think we also need it. And also because if you're trying to declutter your mind, you also have to declutter your space as well. It's impossible to have let's say a clear mind. But in terms of that, are you using any sort of to-do lists, any sort of planners, any sort of things, like maybe on a daily basis, on a weekly basis? Do you plan a lot, or you're just taking things as they are?
I definitely used to be a huge planner, like have things going the way I wanted to and the way I planned. And along the way, I came to the conclusion that this is not always possible. And the more spontaneous I am, the more I let things happen, let things be. For me, personally, it works better. The reason why is because when something doesn't work out the way I planned, I put so much care, and I don't suffer. I don't think suffer is a good word for that, but I just I'm not energetic anymore, you know, I'm not happy anymore. So that's why I've learned to just let things happen, have their natural, normal course, and yeah, I've come to terms with that, and I feel much better now.
Do you feel like you're achieving more, or it doesn't? I mean, see, I think the peace of mind matters a bit more than achieving 10,000 things in a day. But as long as you're still hitting your goals, I think that approach is absolutely fine.
Yes, it's all about the process, and I think it's not necessarily important, the ultimate goal. Yes, it's important to have it in mind, because otherwise you don't know where you're going, where you're headed to.
Yeah.
But what's more important is the process. Okay, what have I learned through the process? What have I discovered? What did I come across? And I was actually reading something lately that it's not important to do a lot of things during the day. Yes, it would be, maybe that would make you feel good, but the moment you do something, just one thing, and you do it with your utmost energy and attention and effort, then you can also feel complete. It doesn't have to be a bunch of things just to make yourself say, okay, I've been productive today, I've done 20 things, I feel super energized. No, it can also be one thing. But if you dedicated your attention and energy to that only one thing, it's very admirable.
Okay, that makes sense. Here we're a bit different. Like, I feel accomplished only when I achieve a certain number of things. Like, if I achieve one thing in one day, that's not good enough. So that, I think that's a function of personality, to be fair. I think it's a different thing for everybody. But during those things that are happening in your day, do you find yourself asking yourself a certain question, or is there one question that has helped you a lot? I'm really big on that areas to try and find the questions that work, because as I was saying in the beginning, I think basically that's the biggest thing about self-help. All those people that are trying to sell things, it's not that it's bad information. It's not bad at all. But the best thing that they're selling you is the questions that they're asking the audience or asking themselves, because that's where the answers come from. So is there one question that you're asking yourself on a regular basis, or that you feel that has helped you?
Definitely, yes. So the question would be, is what I'm currently doing making me happy? Is this particular activity satisfying my soul? Is this what I like? And am I doing it with utmost energy? Am I thriving by doing this activity, this thing? Because yes, in life there are also things at some point which we don't do with our utmost energy. We don't always like certain things we're doing, but still we have to do them. But I think on a general note, the moment you keep your goal in mind and you are set to follow your beliefs, your things which make you happy, you have your own way, I think this is the moment when you feel like your life is complete and you're following your passion after all.
Right, so it mostly revolves around if the thing feels right, or if it makes you happy. Okay, that's a good metric, to be fair. I don't know. I mean, when you're asking people what they want in life, that's probably one of the let's say most common answers, like happiness. Because to be fair, what can you answer to that? Like, what are the things that that one can say? Because if you're thinking like this, happiness sort of includes everything. Like, it's a package that also includes, or at least for me, I'm not saying this as it works for everybody, but for me it includes, you know, financial stability, a good mental and physical health, good relationships with friends, with family, with partners, in any sort of ways, like even in business, even in whatever. And it also includes a let's say giving back strategy or whatever. But it's like it's a term that I think it's good to have in mind, not necessarily to pursue. I think pursuing happiness is just the perfect way to get miserable, because you will get into that rut, like, why I'm not happy, and you will ask yourself this over and over again. And you see, that's one question. That's one thing that I learned from those people that I followed. Like, asking yourself why questions is like the worst thing possible, because you'll never come up with a good answer. I mean, if the question is negative. If the question is positive, like, why am I so smart? Okay, then you can ask yourself that. But why am I not good enough? Why am I always failing? Why am I... That's not helping, because it puts you in that state of, okay, I'm stupid. I don't have the knowledge. I will never know enough. And, you know, there are two types of self-talk. And maybe one of them is the natural type of self-talk for most people. So, there is certain value in changing that type of self-talk. And I know, maybe more than most people, that it's extremely hard to get there. Self-talk is probably the thing that you're doing automatically. So, very tough to change that.
Yes, and I couldn't agree more with what you said about pursuing happiness. Happiness comes from little things. You don't have to chase happiness. Happiness just comes, and it happens naturally. And I think the statement of "I'm not good enough" is very widely met nowadays, unfortunately. I was also there, to be honest. I think we are all at this point, sooner or later.
And we get there eventually. Like,
yes.
At some point in life, we will ask ourselves that. Yeah.
Yes,
sorry.
And we don't have no problem. And we don't have to panic. It's normal. But what's more important is that we learn how to overcome this period, how to basically learn to love ourselves, to be comfortable with ourselves, to go from the statement of "I'm not good enough" to "I am worthy. I'm worthy of love. I'm worthy of care, of attention, of everything." So yes, it's a whole journey, but it's worth it eventually.
And what works for you does not necessarily work for me. So
exactly.
I think each person should find their own, let's say, fix, even though there's nothing to be fixed here. But for example, just by this stuff, you're way more energetic than I am. And if somebody would come to me with that level of energy, I'll probably be put off. Because I'm the type of person who's like cynical, who's like making jokes, like yeah, whatever. And if a person talks to me in the same language, like there is this guy called Sapolsky. He's teaching, let's say, natural sciences, human biology, anatomy, and how the brain works, and all of that craziness. And if somebody would teach me that in a regular manner, I would be bored out of my mind. But I could watch his lectures, like 5 lectures of 3 hours in a day, because he had like such an entertaining way of speaking with, the certain type of language that I would also use. So it's very important to find somebody who's, let's say, on the same, let's say, energy level, right? Or whatever, on the same level of communication, let's say, with you. I think it's much easier to follow that.
Of course, yes.
Did you ever feel like it's a chore to become better? Like, were there times when you were like, you know what, this is too much, I just want to go back to sleep?
There were definitely times when I felt very overwhelmed and I felt exhausted mentally too. Just for in life in general, I felt down. Like as you said, this is too much. I can't cope anymore.
Yeah.
And I think yes, these phases again they're normal. Because otherwise we would all have just ups, and that would be perfect. But we all know by now, hopefully, that life is not perfect. Life is made up with ups and downs, and that is how it should be, because only if you experience the downs, then you have something to learn from, to avoid in your future encounters. So yes, when I feel like this, I just tell myself, it's okay, this shall pass too. Tomorrow will be a better day. If not tomorrow, then the day after. So I just try to comfort myself, to not do a lot of things. I just listen to my body, to my mind. What do I need right now? Do I need to sleep? Okay, let's take a 30-minute break. Okay. And I do that because if I have headache signs, then it's a sign that, okay, I should rest. I should let my guard down a little bit. And I would say, yes, just listen to yourself, to your body, to your mind. Give yourself the rest you need. And don't over push. Don't do too much, because the moment we do too much of something, it can be eating too much, it can be exercising too much, it can be anything which is in excess. I think we will ultimately reach a point when we become addicted to that something, and it's not good. Addiction, as from my own experience, I think it's the way I see it, it's never a good thing.
That's a great point to make. So I think I have two takeaways from what you said. The first one was about being okay with the idea of, let's say, giving yourself a break, or even in the more extreme cases, failing at something. So the process doesn't have to be perfect. There is a certain pressure that sometimes comes from inside, sometimes from outside. Again, we cannot speak for everybody else. We don't know the situations that they're facing, what the people around them are telling them. Maybe there are some people who are in high school and their parents are telling them, hey, you need to get 10s, like A's, all over the place. And that's certainly not something that's humanly possible. You cannot get an A in 15 things. Like, you cannot be that good. If you get an A in 15 things, it means that somebody is lying to you. Like, you cannot be the best biologist, physicist, athlete, mathematician, and to write novels at the same time. It's humanly not possible. And that also leads to the idea that you have to pick the thing that you enjoy. So I think that's extremely valuable.
Or I was thinking while you were saying, I would actually disagree with you just a little bit, because I remember that in high school I had this guy who was actually good in every subject. He was getting A's, he was very smart in everything, like every single subject, and I was always asking myself, how is this possible? But then after thinking better, it came across to me that he's more of a robot. He doesn't have a life. He's always listening to what his parents were telling him. Okay, you have to do this, you have to be like this, you have to only come home with A's. But deep down, he was just not feeling like he was living his own life. He was like a robot every time. He was not himself. Maybe he wanted to excel in math and not in every single subject. So I think it has to do with, yes, how your parents are telling you. It's a little bit more delicate.
Yeah, definitely. But here there is also, the distinction between, you said he was very good at everything. Being very good at something doesn't necessarily mean that you can also be, a top performer in that area.
Yes.
Because things change. Like, I had high grades in physics, and I went to uni, And I literally thought that I was going to die when I saw that I have to learn a 1,000 pages book on mechanics, which I hated, by the way. But yeah, that's a job at my university. But that aside, I also wanted to touch on the second point, which was addictions. And I think it's very easy to develop some of them. And you said you didn't go for the typical addictions, because when people are talking about addictions, they're thinking of, you know what, drugs, alcohol, I don't know, random hookups, whatever you can be, casino or whatever you can be addicted to. But they're not thinking about the, let's say, more normal addictions, like day-to-day addictions, which are maybe addicted to watching TV shows, addicted to video games, to eating, to exercising too much. Some people really are addicted to that. It's clear, I think there is a limit to which you should do any sort of activity, and some activities you should do more than others. Like, you cannot exercise once per week and claim that you're healthy. But and okay, that's another discussion, because being healthy mostly comes from what you eat, not from exercising. But you also have to exercise in addition to eating, like at least 2 or 3 times per week. I think that 3 is like the bare minimum and 4 is the maximum. But yeah, like, you're spending 2 hours in gym every day. How is that going to affect you? Like, it's affecting your life in so many other areas. So yeah, I'm not sure, are you like a personality that would say gets easily addicted to something, or is it hard for you to succumb to addictions?
I was actually thinking while you were talking, what would be my addictions? Because I can see this question coming from his side and I don't know the answer. So, no, I wouldn't really say I have specific addictions. Maybe I am addicted to always people pleasing. And yes, I've talked about it. And I said that it was something I did in the past, but it just happens that still some days or in some moments I feel this need of people pleasing, because this person is very dear to me. We are good friends. I don't want to let them down. So there's some part of me still which feels like people pleasing.
Maybe
yes.
if people will listen to this, they will be like, hey, you know what, I shouldn't take advantage of her, you know, because that's what it eventually is. It's taking advantage of your kindness. And there are certain exercises that, you know, psychologists tell you to do. So if you're depressed and you're a person who's disagreeable, like myself, they will, by the way, all friends say that I would be agreeable, but I actually contradict them. I'm a person who's deeply disagreeable at his core. So they would tell me to go out there and do 3 nice things for others. If a person is in a rut, in a depression, whatever, and is too agreeable, which seems to be, you know, the type of personality that you are. So if you're ever feeling down, I think the best thing to do is to go out there and do 3 nice things for yourself. Like, just treat yourself with 3 nice things, no questions asked. And because, you know, when you're doing too much for others, you're not doing enough for yourself. When you're doing too much for yourself, you're not doing enough for others. So there needs to be a balance.
Absolutely. Yes. And another thing that popped into my mind right now about addiction is I am addicted to what people think about myself. Yes, there was a transformation along the way. I've improved considerably from where I was in the past and where I'm right now. But still, there is always room for improvement. So sometimes I still see this pattern in myself that I care too much of other people's thoughts, other people's opinions about myself. Yes, this one is also a journey. You need to slowly take steps towards improvement. We will eventually get to the point when we will just say, okay, I don't care. I know that the people who really care about me deeply and deserve me will never say that. Yeah. And it's not important to have a lot of friends if they all stab you in the back and say bad things about yourself. what is important is that you pick one friend, but this one friend is always by your side, sticking with you in no matter what kind of situation, and sometimes even giving you bad feedback, because good friends, like not the loyal ones, but the ones that you think they're your good friends but actually are not, they will always say, oh yes, you look amazing in this dress, oh you did super great in this job, and they don't actually care. They just want you to believe that they do, but they don't. So if you meet someone any day who says something which you don't want to hear, then keep this friend close, because he's the real one. Only those who say also good things and bad things.
And here's the key to what you are saying. You will, first of all, the first thing that I want to say is blunt and maybe mean, but I think not caring comes with age. So I don't give a damn about what the people are thinking about me right now, and I used to care about that a lot. And that also came as a function of understanding that the love of the people around me is much greater than the hate of the others. So that's also something extremely powerful. And leading with that, you eventually get to understand that people don't think about you, because you said that they don't. I'm not sure how you phrased it, but you said something along the lines of they don't think how they're affecting you, or they don't care about you. And that's the truth. That's the truth of it. Like almost everybody that you encounter on a daily basis, like let's say you encounter 1,000 people, 999 of them will not give a damn about you, and the only person that probably cares is yourself. But because even like there are so many things happening in our lives on a regular basis that we don't have the time to think of that guy I met in 6th grade, or that girl that I went on a date with like 5 years ago. Who even remembers those people? Like nobody does. And even, the close friends that I had like 10 years ago and I didn't keep in touch with them, I'm almost never thinking of them. And I'm sure it's the same for them, because you only think you have a limited amount of time and a limited amount of space and a limited amount of people that you can impact in a meaningful way. So if you're trying to do that for 200 and something people, you will fail. There's a well-known number that, let's say your tribe a while ago could be of a maximum 120, 150 people. And I think even that's like a huge number. So I don't think that you can impact more than 20 or 30 people in a meaningful way. Obviously, if you're creating something, and I would want to end in that area of creation, if you're creating something, then yes, you can impact a bit more, but you're not doing it directly. It's an indirect manner in which you can improve people's lives. And maybe that's the reason why I think both of us are doing this.
I actually wanted to say 3 things here. There was a book called Unfuck Yourself by Gary Bishop, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't read it yet, but I think this would be a very good book for the ones who still are struggling to not take people's opinions very seriously. I think it would be very good to read it.
I have a counter argument to this. The best thing that you can do? Dress in your pajamas, go to McDonald's at 6 p.m. in the middle of the town. People will look at you like you're crazy. And you will realize at some point that you stopped caring, or do something of that sort. Because that's how you get over those things. Like you realize that, okay, they're looking funny at me, but guess what? Sorry, my voice is just cracking. But in
you talk too much.
Yeah, but in 3 or 4 minutes, they will not care about it.
Yeah, definitely. And everyone has also their own problems. They don't have, as you said at some point, they don't really have time to think about what you did or what you said or how you're dressed. They have their own problems. So we need to tell ourselves this constantly, that we may think that they actually judge us and, oh, they have this opinion about me, but this is just our own impression. This is just our thought. We may think, but it's actually not the reality.
Yeah, I agree, and I still don't have my voice, so I'm sorry about that.
No
Um,
problem.
I actually enjoy this voice, but that aside, I wanted to ask you one more thing,
Of course.
and that's coming from, let's say, a selfish point of view. Because, see, I was telling you that at some point I had a blog. I find it extremely difficult, and probably the most important thing when you're doing something on YouTube or everywhere is to create a script, and that means writing. So I wanted to ask you, like, what would be one tip for anybody that would want to start writing today? Because you said that that's a passion of yours, and when you feel like you wanted to say something and didn't have who to talk to, you wanted to write. How do you feel about writing process, and how, maybe there are some tips and tricks for people to start doing that as well?
I would definitely highly encourage to, the moment you feel you have a thought going on in your mind, an emotion, an experience that you want to share, but you don't immediately find the people or the right person to share it with, just grab your book. Grab your book, a piece of paper,
a notebook,
and a pen. A notebook, yes, thank you. Just grab your notebook, a piece of pen, a pen, and just start writing. And no, it doesn't have to be this format, or no, just follow no guidelines, but just let your thoughts run freely, and let your guard down. Just write everything that is going through your mind. What would be something that I would tell myself 10 years ago, or everything that you experience in your life, just write it down. And it can also be a daily basis, like journaling. Write down what you experienced today, write down the emotions that you felt today, what you've accomplished today, or what you wish you would accomplish, but some other time, maybe next day. So I wouldn't say there is a specific rule as to how to get started, but the moment you want to do this, and the moment you really feel capable of doing that, and you believe that writing is important and it will help you eventually, it's a very good start. I also didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have a goal in mind. I just knew that I wanted to share these experiences with someone. I didn't really feel that comfortable sharing it with my parents, because some of them were also quite personal experiences. So that's why I decided better to write it down. And we will see from later on what stage we reach to writing.
Sure. And as a very, very quick follow-up, do you give yourself a specific amount of time that you write for? Like, I have to write for 20 or 30 minutes or for 1 hour, or it doesn't matter? And also, are you doing it in the morning or in the night? And I promise that's the last question.
No, I actually really enjoy your questions. I usually just, it doesn't matter for me personally. It can be a 10-minute writing, it can be 1 hour, it can be 30 minutes, as long as I put down my thoughts and everything that I feel deep down, and I feel in the end relieved. The moment you feel relieved and there is nothing else going on in your mind, then you can proceed with your daily activities. And your second question was if I do it in the morning or in the evening.
Yes.
I think when you feel most awake, let's say. For me, it would be in the morning, because I like to wake up early in the morning. I'm quite an early bird. I like to sip my coffee in silence, peacefully. So that would be the moment for me to gather my thoughts, organize them, say how I want the day to get started, what I want to do during the day. And maybe, if you still feel like it, you can also do some writing 5 minutes or so in the evening. This is what I did during the day. I feel accomplished because I did this, and that. Tomorrow, I would like to achieve this, and that. And you also have this organization in your mind, like, okay, I achieved the things that I have set to do for today, and tomorrow my day will look like this. And the next day, I promise you will feel so much at ease knowing what your plan looks like for the day.
I understand, and I also think that you shouldn't force creating something, and you shouldn't just wait for a muse to come by so that you can write. So either of those options is incorrect. Like, saying I will write from 10 to 10:30 and that's it. I mean, for me it worked. Extremely well. I did that for 1 month and it was amazing. But for most people it doesn't. And sometimes when you're doing that, you will find out that you have no creativity then. And it's not helpful to just draw blanks and just wait 20 or 30 minutes for an idea to come by. It's not how it works. So adding to what you say, I think it's good when you have a good idea, like put it on paper. It doesn't matter, it can be in like 5 minutes and then move on with your day whenever that happens. But also in the morning, I think it's powerful to start your day after this, let's say a mind dump, so that you won't be stressed by all those thoughts during the day, and you can have them on a piece of paper. You can refer back to it during your day.
For sure. And one last quick thing.
Sure.
I think it's very important to say what you're grateful for, especially at the end of the day. I am grateful for the people I've met. For example, I'm grateful for having accomplished this task. I'm grateful for taking a walk in the nature. So anything that you're grateful for, I think this is very powerful. It can be through writing, it can be through expressing it with another person, but especially in writing, I think this is very important to have like a clearer overview of your life, of yourself, and taking things as they come, and having this minimalistic kind of mentality as we talked about already. Yeah,
having this sort of gratitude journal, let's say, it's extremely powerful. And speaking of that, I'm grateful for our conversation. So
definitely me too.
Thank you for joining me today. And we'll definitely do something on relationships at some point. But I really enjoyed this conversation, and I'm hoping people can take away some snippets of what worked for us, because that's what eventually boils down to.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, and
we'll see. As well.
We'll talk again soon.
Excellent. Have a nice day and talk to you soon.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.